The NFL offseason is already underway. Some big players signing some big contracts. eBay is looking for a new director of trading cards. Jason and I have some thoughts about that. Drama going on with Ja Morant and other big athletes across sports. And with us gearing up for Prizm and some of the bigger sets here in the hobby, we also have some thoughts on some of the weirder sets that we feel like don't get talked about that much. All the topics that we're talking about here on DCI Podcast, episode number 40. What is up, everybody? It is DCI Podcast, episode number 40. I am your show host, Grayson. Alongside me, as always, is DCI Grading's head of grading, Jason Dardick. Jason, episode 40.
Crazy,
man.
I know.
Another milestone, I feel like, for the podcast.
Yeah, another milestone. I was going to say we're one episode away from our Dirk Nowitzki episode.
Ooh, that's true.
That's going to be a hometown, legendary episode. So we got to honor Dirk next week. Do something like that. But 40 episodes, man.
Maybe we both rock some Mavericks gear.
We may
for
have
the show
to.
now.
That's right.
I've only got a Luka shirt right now, but maybe I'll go out of my way to find something Dirk related.
Yep, absolutely.
But yeah, that's a really good point. Guys, if you want to help support the show here, if you're watching it on YouTube specifically, please like, comment, and subscribe to the DCI Grading YouTube. Really helps out the show and the channel a lot. And if you're listening on Spotify, Apple, or anywhere where you listen to your podcast, we appreciate you for tuning in. Also, make sure you follow DCI Grading on Whatnot at DCI Grading. We've also got a ton of new content dropping soon. I won't get too deep into that, but it's going to be really good. So definitely make sure you subscribe here to our YouTube. And Jason, DCI will also be at the tried and true Dallas Card Show this week. Dallas Card Show this weekend. If you want to maybe touch on that here a little bit.
Yeah, awesome. Absolutely, guys. Make sure you come see us at the Dallas Card Show. We will be there Thursday night through Sunday afternoon. It's going to be a great time. We have on-site slabs for the first time. That is going to be $30 on-site slabs this weekend only. Make sure you get there early because it is going to be first come, first serve, and the amount that we can get done in the weekend, just the allotted time for the show. So make sure you get there early. Drop them off, guys. $30 on-site slab available from DCI, as well as our $12 normal turnaround, 10 business day turnaround for slabs if you don't want them back by the end of the show. We also have our $8 RCR. So same day turnaround, tons of offerings, some awesome value, always being provided by DCI for the Dallas Card Show. Always a great show. Really looking forward to getting out there and seeing everybody this weekend.
First Dallas Card Show that DCI will be doing those on-site slabs, guys. So you know it's going to be busy. You want to take advantage. Get there early on Friday, or if you've got, I think the VIP has Thursday night access as well. So if you're a VIP, come in on Thursday. Get your submission in early for the on-site slabs, guys. As Jason said, you can also just do the normal 10-day turnaround for slabs as well. If you are a little bit more patient about it, I guess.
That's right.
But, man, I don't know why you wouldn't want to take advantage of that on-site slabbing. That is a heck of a deal. Nobody else is offering that kind of value right now in the world of grading.
Especially for the price. Yeah, I think, again, $30 a card to have it back the same weekend is almost unheard of. Like you said, in the grading industry today. That's just
at the biggest show in the country, guys, the Dallas Card Show, in terms of, I guess, consistency as well. I mean, this is huge, guys. First show that DCI's grading is going to be able to do this. On-site slabbing. Make sure you're there for it this weekend. Yeah,
going to be a great show. I know we've got a lot of really interesting topics for our podcast today, but before we jump into that, I just wanted to touch on the Whatnot, which you mentioned in the intro.
Yeah, please do.
Kind of changing up our format just a little bit. Instead of running shows throughout the week, we're basically just going to move it into one or two big monthly shows where we run kind of all day on a Sunday, once or twice a month. Same format, guys. Everything's going to start. It's going to be the new products. Starting at $1 auctions, we're going to sell the RCRs as well. It's just going to be a little less frequent. So just keep an eye on the schedule. We'll definitely post that ahead of time. Just kind of give people a little more of an idea of maybe what to expect for those shows, give us a little time on the back end to kind of curate those cards as well. But a little bit of a format change, but still great place to, again, get involved with the hobby, kind of get familiar with the community, and kind of make some money on some new product.
Absolutely. Obviously, with DCI introducing slabbing into the fold here now, it's just that's becoming the main focus.
Absolutely.
And so the shows on Whatnot, again, not going to be as frequent, but when they do happen, they're going to be massive.
Oh, they're just going to, yeah, exactly. Basically, we're going to take, 5 shows that would be all good shows and make them one
Crazy,
badass,
massive.
right,
Yeah.
huge blowout show on, just a little less frequent.
So now the DCI Whatnot, if you see any of the shows, you might as well go ahead and bookmark them now because
That's
they're
exactly
all
right.
going to be absolutely massive.
That's exactly
Tons of
right.
value, tons of good product going on there. So I believe there's already like 4 or 5 that have already been scheduled on the channel over, a period of time. So make sure you go ahead, follow us on Whatnot, guys, and bookmark all of those shows. You are not going to want to miss out.
That's exactly right.
All right, let's go ahead and dive in to our topics for the day. Our first one up, Jason, is obviously one that I'm excited to kind of dive into.
Sure.
Just because, yes, football season is over, but I personally am a huge fan of what happens during the NFL offseason. I was tuning into what was happening at the NFL Combine.
Definitely.
Guys like Anthony Richardson really showing out in
Crazy.
his physicality and kind of giving himself a little bit of boost in those QB rankings. He seems to have gone from maybe the 3rd or 4th quarterback to maybe the number 2. Some people are trying to say he might be the first quarterback off the board now after the Combine. That's a crazy thing to think about. And, just some other guys like Jackson Smith and Jigba from Ohio State had a great showing as has kind of solidified himself, I feel like, as the top wide receiver.
I agree.
Nolan Smith from Georgia, an absolute freak. He's like 6'5" or something like that, almost 270 pounds, and he ran a 4.4 40. It's just, yeah.
Guys that big should not be able to move that fast. That is such a scary
Jordan Davis
size
last
and
year.
speed combination.
Yeah, Jordan Davis last year, 6'7", 340. He ran like whatever. It was like a 4.7 or 4.8 as a D tackle. Now you got Nolan Smith this year who's going to be who looks like, I mean, it's crazy to think this, but possibly on the same like physical level as somebody like Micah Parsons right now at the linebacker position, but arguably faster. So
Crazy.
He's definitely going to be an intriguing prospect to keep an eye on for the upcoming draft. So I love watching the Combine. I love seeing what happens with free agency. I love the NFL draft. That's like my favorite thing in all of football. So I wanted to talk about kind of an NFL offseason update here. Free agency starts next week. So we're definitely going to be touching on that once some of the bigger names are flying off the board. But there's already been some big quarterbacks who have signed some deals. Daniel Jones just signed
Big-time contract.
$40 million per year deal to stay with the New York Giants. They also franchise tag Saquon Barkley to kind of keep that duo. So, shout out to Daniel Jones for getting paid.
That's right. I know New Orleans as well in the market for some quarterbacks.
The Saints have signed Derek Carr to a 4-year deal. It's more like a 3-year deal, but it's still around $100 million. So he's now making $33 million a year for the Saints. Big deal for Derek Carr. Glad that Derek Carr was able to get that bag and stay with what I personally think was probably the best team he could have gone to.
I think they've got a really good, offense and some weapons around him that isn't. It's obviously it's not Oakland's offense, Vegas's offense, but again, to have a slot, quick slot receiver like Olave and some other weapons.
If Michael Thomas is able to get healthy, Kamara's on a little bit of a downtrend, but this is a stacked draft for running backs. So you could see the Saints snagging another running back to kind of help Kamara out a little bit. Like you said, Olave. I mean, Marquez Callaway was not a bad receiver, kind of on the come up for them. And
yeah, I agree.
They have a decent young offensive line as well. And I mean, I like Dennis Allen as a coach. I think that, they looked pretty decent even with Andy Dalton at the helm,
And I think he definitely, there's much worse places where Derek Carr could have ended up, but I actually think he goes to New Orleans and makes an immediate impact.
Yeah, and let's face it, that division with, Tom Brady out of Tampa Bay and stuff, I just don't see that division being very difficult to win if you're able to just get a little bit more talent in the door. Now, the Saints do have one of the tougher cap situations, so don't expect them to probably get anybody huge in free agency to help him out. It's probably going to have to be mostly through the draft and maybe some chip-in kind of guys that they're able to get in free agency. But still, I like that landing spot for him. That city is all about the Saints. I think that's a great community for him to be in. And he has been welcomed in with open arms. All of his teammates, Michael Thomas and tons of other New Orleans players are very excited to have Derek Carr in the building. So that's really cool to see.
Yeah. I know some other big free agency news, not necessarily like you said, free agency doesn't start till next week, but we're going to see maybe Aaron Rodgers on the move.
That's pretty big.
In terms of the quarterback market, keeping the theme here, going from Carr to Rodgers, where do you want to see Aaron Rodgers end up? You want to see him, just personally, I guess, as your opinion.
Where do I want to see him end up? Ooh,
And I know you're a Vikings fan, so if you guys don't know, Grayson's a huge Vikings fan. So I was trying to trick him into saying he wanted to keep him in Green Bay, and so I could out him as a fake Vikings fan. But
yeah, nice try. To be honest, as a Vikings fan, I'm just happy to see Rodgers is out of the NFC North.
Yeah,
personally, because they've also, I believe, I don't know who has reported this, but I think the rumors are that they are not going to trade him. I believe he's going to get traded most likely, but still,
I'm not sure
it's
about the
happening.
Situation.
Yeah, he might get released, but if he does get traded, which I believe is what's happening, I don't think that he's getting traded in the NFC.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would personally like to see him maybe go somewhere like Carolina. I think that could be a really cool team for him. Going to the Falcons for a year or two, teach up a guy like Desmond Ridder with a team that's already got some offensive talent. Guys like Kyle Pitts and Garrett Wilson and Tyler Algier wasn't bad as a running back. I would like to see him stay in the NFC and maybe go to a team like that. I mean, heck, could you imagine him stepping in Tampa Bay and, where Brady was and just kind of filling that role? That would have been interesting, but I just don't see that happening. It seems like everybody's talking New York Jets.
Yeah, and I was just going to say I saw a funny Instagram reel. Our friend Kyle, King of the Cards, putting he said this is the day one. Yesterday was day one of him sleeping with his Aaron Rodgers rookie under his pillow because he's a big Jets fan. And he says, I'm going to sleep with the Rodgers rookie under my pillow until Aaron Rodgers is a Jet. So, I know there's a lot of people out there rooting for like you said, Rodgers to end up in New York.
I know that Robert Saleh has come out and openly stated that, we're not giving up on Zach Wilson or whatever, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't bring in Rodgers for a year or two
and teach him.
And, maybe he wasn't as open to teaching Jordan Love when he got drafted because he still felt like he had a lot left in the tank. But, maybe he's had a change of heart. Maybe that that darkness excursion that he went on has possibly led him to be like, you know what, I would be willing to maybe teach a young guy now like Zach Wilson how to be a professional, So I think the Jets could be a really fun team for him because, I mean,
Garrett Wilson's awesome,
I agree. With even semi-decent quarterback play last year, the Jets are a playoff team.
Yep.
If it weren't for the fact that they had to deal with Zach Wilson and Mike White throughout the whole year.
And that's why I say Garrett Wilson's so good because he put up great numbers.
I mean, how about Breece Hall at running back was having a great year as a rookie until he got injured, and I expect him to come back. And, I mean, Michael Carter's a pretty decent number two, and they've got other weapons in that offense as well. They have a really underrated offensive line. Guys like Elijah Vera Tucker. They need to figure out left tackle, but I expect that to happen in the draft probably. But, yeah, I mean, they have tons of weapons. They have a great defense. Which is very critical in the AFC nowadays when you're playing guys like Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, the list goes on. So, yeah, I see the Jets being a very good potential landing spot for him. I think if there's any other team in the AFC, I wish I could say maybe like the Indianapolis Colts if it weren't for the fact that they've had so much failure with veteran quarterbacks over the last couple of years, and with them having such a high draft pick.
They had the most disappointing season.
Yeah, I really expect the Colts to draft somebody.
Okay.
Whether it be Stroud or maybe they trade up to get Bryce Young or whatever it may be, maybe Anthony Richardson, who we were just talking about. I expect the Colts to draft somebody. I just don't see them going after Rodgers. So, through all of this, it's probably going to be the Jets, I think is what I'm saying. Where I want him to end up is somewhere, honestly, in the NFC. I would rather him be in Atlanta or maybe Carolina, personally.
Like anywhere but yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, I think it's just going to be the Jets, man. And it'll be really interesting to see how it all goes down, though. Who knows who's going to cough up some first-round picks to get him because it's a quarterback-needy league right now, if you can't tell, but the type of money that Derek Carr and Daniel Jones are getting right now.
Yeah,
Another guy I want to talk about real quick is Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
So he did get hit with a franchise tag, but it is a non-exclusive franchise tag. So basically what that means is that if a team wants to offer him a deal to, trade for him, the Ravens can match that deal, or they can accept 2 first-round picks in place of trading him.
Gotcha.
So the Washington Commanders have been a team that has been brought up a lot to go after Lamar Jackson. And that's another team that I think Rodgers could possibly look decent on. But That's really interesting to me, the idea of Lamar going to Washington.
First of all, I'm a huge Lamar Jackson fan. I think he is, if not the best athlete in the NFL, he's in the top 5 to 10. Do I think he's the best natural quarterback? No. But do I think he's absolutely a professional quarterback? Yes.
I would definitely say he's top 10, no doubt.
Absolutely. And
when he's at his best, top 5.
He is so much fun to watch. He's just got that next gear of – and he was probably a guy who really benefited from the combine, like, Anthony Richardson and some of these other guys where, a team like Indianapolis may – from a smaller school. And obviously he won the Heisman and was very,
right.
He was a big name, but some of these guys who may not be, who go to the combine, in this past week or so and really show out like an Anthony Richardson, right?
Yep.
To jump up. It feels like to me, the NFL, especially with the combine in their off season, you can really make up for a lack of play
during your last college football season or something like that.
More so than other sports during the offseason.
I totally agree. Look at again, Zach Wilson's a great example.
Right.
The dude at his pro day was making these insane throws, across his body, 60 yards down the field with no pads on.
Right.
And boom, all of a sudden he's going number 2 overall. And it happens all the time. People can't help it when that dude runs a 4.3. When you see Jordan Davis at 3.40, 6'7",
he shouldn't be able to run that fast.
It just happens. It happens every single year. We can even go back a couple of years when the Cowboys went after Byron Jones because he broke the world record in the long jump and stuff. Totally agree. There's something about the NFL Combine when a dude really shows out in multiple categories.
The athletic factor.
It can just rocket them off draft boards.
And
I
kind of get it, right? You believe in your organization. You should think, I have the best coaches. I have the best staff. I should be able to take this guy and mold him and teach him how to play football, right? Like if he's got the intangibles. So I kind of understand it from that point. But it is interesting to see guys like Anthony Richardson go from the 4th or 5th best quarterback all the way to number 1 on some boards,
Yeah. So these are some of the biggest guys, I think, that in terms of quarterbacks especially, that are already getting talked about. Again, when free agency hits next week, that'll be something that we update on as, guys actually finally land in spots.
Totally.
And even outside of quarterbacks, right? Like guys like Devontae Adams, he's talked about, I want to leave Vegas since Derek Carr's not there. That's one of the top receivers in the NFL still,
right?
Who's going to probably be on the move if they don't. Maybe again, Raiders, another team that could be going for Rodgers. Didn't really talk about them too much, but for some reason, I just don't think that anybody wants to play for Josh McDaniels. So that's kind of why I don't bring them up. I don't feel like Rodgers wants to play for Josh McDaniels. I wouldn't want to play for Josh McDaniels.
Right.
He just doesn't come off as a guy who knows how to coach a football team. And Robert Saleh seems to be like he's had a lot more.
Opposite, right?
Yeah, he seems to have a pretty good grasp already on the Jets if he can just get a good quarterback. So yeah, that's kind of why I didn't bring up the Raiders. I know there's been some talk of that, and maybe they do go for him to keep Devontae in Vegas because you can imagine if Rodgers goes to the Raiders, maybe Devontae's like, all right, I guess if I can't have Derek, you bring me back my old guy. Maybe I'll stay. But that's another guy that's probably going to be on the move if that doesn't happen. Is there anybody else that you can think of off the top of your head, and I have one or two guys as well, that you kind of want to keep an eye on, maybe in the hobby during this offseason? If they get signed to the right team, or anybody that you're already keeping an eye on this offseason that you should maybe be buying right now?
So, again, I'm gonna defer to you on this one just because I'm not the biggest NFL collector.
Okay.
So I love football cards. Don't get me wrong. Like I love cards, right? So I collect. I open new football stuff, but it's not what I actively collect for myself. And so if I were going to, just as an, just to try to make some money again, I think on last week's episode we talked about the Jalen Hurts, right?
Yeah.
I didn't think Jalen Hurts was going to have the year he did. I thought the Eagles were going to be the best team, and so around this time a year prior, I bought some Jalen Hurts stuff, and when the season started, I dumped it. You know what I mean?
Right.
He hadn't played a game. He hadn't done anything but the season be on people's minds for me to profit. And so in that regard, I think guys that are going to be on good teams. So maybe Derek Carr, now that you look around the division and see that the Saints are probably one of the favorites in that division, right?
Yeah.
So I'm looking at Saints guys. I'm looking at guys that I don't have to they don't have to do anything, right? Again, if I'm buying them now and I'm going to sell them right before the season starts, that's all that matters for me. If I was going to look based on, free agency, things like that, Rodgers is where I start. And I'm not looking specifically at Rodgers' cards. I'm actually going to look at Jordan Love's cards.
There you go.
And he is the backup to Aaron Rodgers right now. But again, if Rodgers is moved, Love is the next in line. So again,
in my opinion, that's who I'm keeping. That's who I am actually looking to buy right now.
Perfect.
Is Jordan Love, because I think that just for the time being, he's still there's already a little bit of hype around him.
Yep.
But that hype's only going to increase once Rodgers lands somewhere else.
Correct.
So if anybody that you want to try to buy, I feel like over the next couple of days or over the next week, while Rodgers is still kind of in this limbo of where he's going to end up, Jordan Love is the guy I think that people could be buying on with big potential because if anything goes right for him this year, you could be looking at a Brock Purdy type of surge for a guy who's been in the league since 2020, in my opinion, in the hobby. I mean, he's got a lot of big cards out there that probably aren't going for near as much as some of his contemporaries from the 2020.
Class, 100%.
Guys like Tua, guys like Joe.
Herbert.
Yeah, and Herbert. I mean, Jordan Love's sitting at a fraction of the cost for the same cards and the same sets. And I think that's got to be the move if people want to go for big profit on a guy this season, to have that Jalen Hurts type year possibly. And I'm not saying he's going to come out and take the Packers to the Super Bowl, but it took Rodgers a minute to establish himself.
And so you're a little different than me. We both said Jordan Love, but I would sell my Jordan Love before the season started, right? Like let's just say Rodgers is gone. And that's, we're a week in the future. Rodgers is gone. I'm buying Jordan Love now because it's not football season, right?
Right.
You're buying Jordan Love because you think he is actually talented enough to win some games for the Packers.
I am willing to take that shot on him. Exactly. But if you have Jordan Loves and you don't think that he's going to be that guy, 100%. I think you're totally right in that same sense. Wait for Rodgers to land somewhere and then go for and then dump your Jordan Loves if you're looking to sell. But I think Jordan Love is a guy right now where on both sides of the spectrum, there's going to be a lot of transactions happening, I think, over this offseason.
I think it's a great point. And that's it's good to to look at that now before free agency, but also in the offseason of football to dump before football, or looking way ahead, maybe 5 years down the line. You say, you know what? Green Bay is a franchise that puts their players in position to win, right?
Yep.
So I'm going to spend $5,000 and just put it into Jordan Love, right? Not because of Jordan Love necessarily, but because of the system.
Yeah.
Or maybe it is because of Jordan Love. Maybe you went to college with him and you know him and you want to, and he's the guy you're going to take a chance on. But,
two other guys I'll give a quick shout out to before we head on to our next topic. Again, quarterback is king in football. So in terms of the hobby, I think two other guys to keep an eye on, and this is all going to depend on where these big quarterbacks like Lamar and Rodgers end up. But Sam Howell over at the Washington Commanders and Kyle Trask for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Those are two guys who they are not selling for a lot right now.
Right.
Even with the little bit of hype that Howell gained at the end of last season, and even with the little bit of hype that Trask has built since Brady's retired.
Yep.
But still, right now, those guys are going for a fraction of what their contemporaries are in the same class. Howell ain't going for as much as Pickett, and Trask ain't going for as much as Lawrence.
Right.
But those are two guys who, if those two teams don't pick up another quarterback and they end up being the starter and they end up playing well, there could be big potential there for, their prices to go up very, very quickly at the beginning of the season. So those are two other guys I would be possibly buying right now.
Like it.
But yeah, NFL offseason already underway, guys. Tons of big names out there. Who are you buying in the hobby right now during the NFL offseason?
Let us know.
Let us know in the comments. We want to know. Or just message us on social media and tell us who you're buying. We'll talk about it on the next episode or in future episodes where we have other offseason updates mentioning what some of our viewers are investing in right now, NFL-wise. All right, Jason, moving on to our next topic. This one I kind of definitely just wanted to touch on because it's hobby-based, and it didn't just happen recently. I think it happened about 1 or 2 weeks ago-ish, but eBay, who obviously is the king kind of where people go to sell their cards online for the most part. Some people go to other spots like MySlabs and places like that, but at the end of the day, eBay is kind of king of online selling right now for cards.
Definitely.
They are looking for a director of trading cards right now. This job posting popped up, about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, and we just didn't touch on it at the time, but it's still up, I believe, to my knowledge. They haven't found anybody yet. This job's paying somewhere in the realm of $164K to over $200K for the job. And there's been a bunch of rumors of, some random guys in the hobby should be going for it, or is it even worth that much money? And then people are bringing up different ideas that, whoever gets the job, they need to bring this to the table, or they need to bring that to the table. It's kind of opened up some conversations about what is eBay trying to do with trading cards here in the near future. They've obviously continued to try and innovate. They just debuted their vault service a couple of months ago, some things like that. They have the authenticity guarantee now for sports cards. So I believe with them trying to bring in a new director of trading cards, they want to continue to innovate. They want to continue to find somebody who's going to lead the way on keeping them at the top in terms of where people go to sell their cards online. So I kind of just wanted to touch on this a little bit and see if this piqued your interest at all as just somebody in the hobby, or if there's anything you thought of that you're hoping maybe this new director brings to the table.
That's a good question. I hadn't thought of it from that perspective, like what I personally would like to see. So I'll preface this. I actually don't sell on eBay just because my network, I'm constantly at shows, I'm around cards constantly, right? And so for me personally, I don't sell on eBay just to avoid the fees. So
there you go.
I buy on eBay all the time. So authenticity guarantee, love it. I don't love the time factor that is added in some cases, but again, I'd much rather have a legitimate collectible.
And wait the extra week.
Big deal. You know what I mean?
Right.
And if I need it that bad, I'll go buy another one locally. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But so I think that's great. I agree with your overall sentiment that the job posting and just, the creation of that position, if it is, or, the refilling of the position is to keep innovating eBay and to keep them on that front line of innovation in the hobby. Mm-hmm. And again, I think they're doing a great job. I think they're doing the vault thing correctly. I don't know enough to speak on it from a seller
personal
perspective,
experience
but
necessarily.
If I bought something, I have a vault that I use already, so I don't necessarily need another one. Mm-hmm. It is an absolutely fantastic option for people to use a line of credit in that, in their against their collection. So if you store it on eBay and then you can buy and sell on eBay using that value. So I think it's good. Vaults are good for security, for all these different types of things. I hope, personally, I guess I would say I hope that the person who gets the job is in the hobby, or
there you go.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Truly understands the collector and what the little things that happen in between, in the eBay transactions, things like that.
Yeah.
Somebody, when you dispute a claim, right? Somebody who's going to be able to say, okay, this is one that we are going to return, or who can make that decision confidently based on their experience in the hobby and not just corporate, yes or no, ethics, basically.
Okay, that's a really good point. I definitely would say that, just as hobbyists ourselves, we would want it to be somebody who truly understands cards and truly understands where everybody who sells on eBay and buys on eBay in the hobby is coming from, and what they're really hoping to see and what they would like, and what actually is, not just something that could possibly be a money grab. I think that's one of the things that
they're providing value.
I know eBay's recently kind of dove into implementing some live streaming type stuff, but I think that's kind of one of the things that I'm a little afraid about. Is I hope that this guy doesn't come in and just try to turn eBay into a whatnot.
I agree. Yeah.
I don't think that's something that eBay needs. That's not something that people associate eBay with. They don't, and I don't think that that's going to be worth the time. I think that there's other things that could be better put into to improve the platform. Sure. So I'm hoping that they don't go in something like that, where they just try to rip off something else that is also already exists in the hobby, like whatnot, or something of the nature. You kind of brought it up there, fees.
Yeah.
That seems to be the number one thing that people can't stand about selling on eBay. And it ends up actually kind of punishing the sellers in Facebook groups and on other social media platforms where they like to sell as well, because, people understand, oh, well,
if it's off of
if
eBay,
it's going for this much on eBay, then that's, they add in the fees. They're like, well, it's actually worth this much.
Right.
So you have to sell for less on social media than you would on eBay because of the fee situation. And it kind of creates this weird gap that I just don't typically prefer as a buyer, specifically of cards online, and a consumer of cards. So that's something I would actually like to see. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not asking eBay to completely get rid of fees here, but there's got to be, I feel like, something they can do to alleviate that a little bit, because at the moment it's just this flat rate. No matter how high the card is, you're taking off like 13%.
Right.
And you see other platforms like buysportscards.com and MySlabs I brought up, for example, and they like to brag about how their fees are a little bit lower than eBay's and things like that. So I would like to see them try to adjust putting more money back into the collector's pocket in some form or fashion. Yeah. I don't necessarily have a really great idea for how they're going to do that. Right. I know at the end of the day, eBay does need to make their money, but I don't know. There's got to be something else they can do, I feel like.
Yeah, I feel like it's a hard, right? Like, you want to provide value, but you're still
I get you're tiptoeing around profit, and that's something that's always going to be difficult for any company. But maybe this new director can find a way to maybe bring some ad revenue to the table or something of the nature to where they can implement more profit in other areas to alleviate fees off of the seller. Because this is the way that I see it. If you're able to drop fees in any form or fashion, that hopefully in return would welcome more sellers, maybe even like yourself, onto the platform and go, oh, it's now X number instead of 13%. Dang, I might have to start selling on eBay.
Right.
Now it's worth my profit. Now it's worth my time to post on eBay. And I think that that's something that I'm hoping the director is able to bring to the table. Just simple things that seem like it's just, hey, drop fees. Well, it isn't that easy, Right. But that's why they're probably going to be making over $200K a year, is to help find a way to innovate the platform, but also
provide value
back to the hobby, because this is something that Fanatics is certainly trying to do right now with Topps. It's something that I'm sure Panini is also in the works on, with Fanatics making those types of moves with Topps. So I'm hoping that eBay, just with this new director, is doing the same thing. I want to see more value brought back to the hobby, and I want to see sports cards more prevalent in general in society. And I think that eBay, with obviously the brand that they have the ability to do that if this director places cards right.
I agree.
All right, there we go on that topic. I definitely just wanted to touch on that because it didn't happen too recently, but it does involve the hobby. It does show that eBay is trying to bring somebody into their team in that major position, and that's obviously whatever they decide is going to have major impacts, I think, on the hobby in general in terms of how things go down on that platform. So definitely worth touching on at least a little bit. All right, let's touch on something a little bit more recent now, Jason, that has got a lot of hobbyists worried.
Yes.
A lot of collectors worried right now. Ja Morant is unfortunately a goofball, I think, is the casual way of putting it. He has got himself mixed up in some stuff right now where he got, I guess, some footage popped up that he was showing a gun in a club, and it's now gotten him dismissed from the team for a short period of time. And it has all of his collectors now, as Ja Morant is arguably, in terms of like some of this new generation, maybe the number one guy that people invest in and buy in the hobby right now.
Absolutely.
That's not good. That's not good for him, for something like this to happen.
Right. I think a couple ways, first of all, it's hard for me to even put into words like how dumb that is. You know what I mean? Like I heard the video and like saw the video or saw all the tweets and I was like, what is this person thinking? You know what I mean?
It's the first thing I think is why? Like, how come? And I don't want to get into him too much, but there's the Joe Mixon rumors going around. What is up with these athletes having all the money, all the potential, all the everything in the world, and just throwing it away, like possibly in a split-second decision? Like, what is worth it to you?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me at all. From a car, like, again, to touch on the hobby impact, people are going to get crushed. Like, his cards are tanking. You know what I mean? Like, if you, and I was talking with Brad about this the other day, if you believe in Ja Morant, his talent is undeniable, right?
No doubt.
He's 24 years old, and in our, and this is unfortunate, but in our society, the next news cycle will grab everyone's attention, right?
Right.
Again, Joe Mixon, great example. You know what I mean? Or whoever else it is tomorrow, or the next day, or the next day, right? So, yes, in the short term, like in the rest of this basketball season, probably some of next year basketball season, like you're not going to ever see Ja prices where they were, prior to this incident.
Right.
I do think 20 years down the line, Ja Morant cards will be much more valuable and, bring a really high price compared to what they're bringing today. So, again, it's really interesting to, where does the market, correct? You know what I mean? All of this stuff's going to go down for a while. Okay, where does it bottom out? Like, where's the bottom? Mm-hmm. And if you believe in him, do you buy and try to flip next season? Do you buy and put it away for a decade until he retires? Again, like he's 20, he's a young kid, right? Yeah. He's got all the talent in the world. What he needs in either the organization or his family, his close circle, he needs to get the right people around him. Everyone makes mistakes.
I agree.
And as long as he learns from it and moves on and makes the correct, decisions and however, makes amends for the situation and can, put it behind him long term, even in the hobby, Ja's going to be fine.
I agree. And I mean, he's only dismissed from the team for a short period of time. Yeah. To my knowledge, I don't think this is going to hold him out for the rest of the season or anything to that nature. Well, it's possible.
And I have tickets to Mavs versus Grizzlies next week, so he better be playing next week. Yeah, just on a selfish note.
Again, I think he's only stepping away from the team for like a couple games.
Ugh, but still, the whole thing.
But yeah, the whole thing. The thing is like, the way I kind of see it is, I think it's unfortunately kind of sort of like a roller coaster, right? When you're going up that initial hill and then all of a sudden it drops. He's been going up that hill for a minute, with the smack talking. Oh, I'm okay in the West.
Right.
That type of stuff.
Yep.
And the whole team talking smack throughout this entire season. And just kind of having like very blatant character flaws.
I agree.
And then all of a sudden he does something like this and boom, you're going down the roller coaster hill now.
Right.
And that's where I'm like, all right, there's two things that's going to happen here now, the way that I see it.
Right.
He's either going to get his act together, however long that takes, maybe the rest of the season, and maybe it's instant, or whatever. I know he doesn't come from like a rough background.
Right.
He had a supportive family, he went to private school. Like, this isn't a dude who was in the streets like some of other guys in the NBA who
he can get the help he needs.
Yeah.
Right.
And like, I think that's also kind of what worries me at the same time is that he has honestly no even like prior experience or background to make me think that something like this could happen.
Right.
This is just blatant stupidity.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's what's really frustrating for probably
ignorance.
And ignorance for sure. That's probably what's most frustrating for, I don't even buy Ja. Like, I don't even collect Ja like that. And I'm frustrated. I can't even imagine what some dudes who've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in the guy think like, dude, like, again, just why?
Yeah.
Like, you have no reason to behaving like this.
Right.
It's so stupid.
And it all goes back. And like you said, and Brad's talked on the past podcast episodes where he likes to go and look at guys' Instagrams, their social medias, and find out the background of the guy.
Totally agree.
You would have never have seen that in Ja's background.
Yeah.
Which is, again, to your point, it's just the ignorance of the whole thing, the stupidity.
Well, I mean, if you
actions.
see his Twitter,
right, and
he talks a ton of smack on Twitter. Like, it's like, just like,
but again,
it's eye rolling.
That's this generation's NBA. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're all, and it's not just Ja. Unfortunately, we hear about him the most because he's the best of that age group, right?
But you know what? The Twitter stuff isn't even what bothers me, because let's face it, KD's that guy too.
100%.
And KD gets, way more respect because he hasn't done anything like that, the ridiculous club stuff. Like, he's never really had a situation like that where it's been like, oh my gosh, like, is this dude, just a moron?
Right. Does he need help?
Yeah.
Serious help. Yeah.
Again, but you have that you have a clean record, right?
Right.
And it seems like the second that record starts getting dirty, your prices start to go down because you have people who just don't like your character, and people
100%.
just don't like, Kyrie. We talked about him a couple of weeks ago when the Mavs first made the trade. Just because of some of his character flaws, especially in the hobby, his prices just aren't where they used to be before he kind of started, making some of those decisions.
Right.
So I'm really hoping that he's able to up himself, Ja Morant, and just learn from his mistake here, because this is something that is going to impact him if he's not able to get his act together for the rest of his life. And that's something that I don't think anybody in the hobby wants to see.
Hobby aside.
Not everybody can be Steph Curry.
Sure.
Not everybody can be this golden boy of the NBA. I understand that, which is also what makes somebody like Steph Curry so desirable, or LeBron, somebody who's just an absolute class act. And
throughout their whole life,
their whole career, their whole life, a role model for the next generation. It does not happen with every player. I get that. But, for the guy who, again, is arguably the number one
the face
in terms of under 25 players,
right.
That is being invested in the hobby right now, for something like this to happen.
Well, not even just in the hobby. Nike just signed him to a huge deal.
That's true. Yeah.
All the endorsements,
to have
all
him
that stuff.
Step in for Kyrie, right?
Right.
Like,
so,
it's just insane.
Yeah, it is.
When you start thinking about some of those things.
It really is.
You can only hope that he
figures it out,
man.
But yeah, for the hobby, but also just for him. What I mean? It's just again, tough scene, and yeah.
So, hate to see it, honestly. Really hate to see it. I love, like you said, his athleticism is undeniable. He is one of the most fun players to watch in the entire league.
It will definitely be interesting to see at the Dallas show this weekend if Jaws are flying, or if people have put them away.
That's definitely. You'll have to kind of keep an eye on that.
Yeah, definitely.
And we'll have to see how what it's looking like, on the show floor.
Definitely, we'll update you all next week as well.
Next week on what we saw at the Dallas Card Show in terms of Ja Morant. Were his prices lower? Was he flying? Was he not even in display cases? That's a very interesting point. So, yeah, not fun for Ja collectors right now, but, these things happen, so definitely worth talking about. Last topic of the day, Jason. Prizm FOTL football just dropped yesterday.
Yes.
And then Immaculate Football 2022 just dropped about 2 or 3 days ago. Some of the biggest sets in the hobby for this class of football 2022 is finally starting to hit the market. Prizm Hobby is going to be on the market here very, very soon. And then after that, it's going to be Optic. And, I feel like we've finally kind of come out of the lull period that Panini does have, it seems, for those very massive sets, those flagship sets.
Yep.
So with that in mind, I do kind of want to touch on some of the sets that we've been getting prior to this run, some of the sets that people don't talk about as much and don't get as much attention, but are sort of there here in Panini's schedule to sort of fill that gap, to keep people interested, to keep product going out, and to give people more access to the rookies and outside of those more expensive sets like Prizm and Immaculate and Optic and so on. So I kind of want to touch on some of these, and we can kind of quick hit these if you want, and just give our quick thoughts on what we think about some of these. I don't know if I would call them weird, but maybe just what's the word? More unique, I guess. More.
Yeah, it's just not their normal, like
the non-flagship sets
right.
that have been coming out over the last couple of months that always do come out, before Prizm and these bigger sets. So first one, the 4 that I kind of want to touch on, and we can sort of talk about them in like a bowl here, is Illusions, XR, Phoenix, and Zenith. Those are sort of the 4 sets that have come out over like the last 2 months. What do you think about any of those sets in particular? Do you like any of those 4 sets more than others? Do you think some of them, like, you kind of wish they didn't maybe even exist? Like, you're like, I don't even know why this set is here. Or do you like any of the particular sets for any specific reason?
Yes. So I'm going to group Illusions and Zenith together. And I would group Phoenix and XR together.
Okay.
Just from a cards per pack, configuration standpoint. XR and Phoenix are going to be much lower options to get a patch autograph.
Yeah.
You're going to be able to get some really cool, rookie patches, rookie patch autographs, veteran patches, veteran patch autographs.
I think XR even guarantees an RPA in their hobby boxes.
That's correct.
So
you can, XR's got, you can find laundry tags, shields, same with Phoenix. That stuff will never sell for the same card of a National Treasures. Okay.
Right.
National Treasures patch auto is, as high end as it gets for football and for that player. Okay. So for the 99% of the hobby who can't afford to go and buy that, you know what I mean? This is a great option. XR's got some really cool patches, great looking set. Phoenix is chrome. So it's actually got, the chrome stock and the patches and on the autos, things like that. So both of those two sets, big fan. I like them. And
green thumbs up on those.
Yep, green thumbs up on those two.
Okay. I can kind of agree with you on that. I personally like XR a lot more than Phoenix. For some reason, Phoenix just doesn't sell in the hobby as much as I feel like it should for a chrome set.
Sure.
But I do like the way it looks.
Yeah.
I do agree with you that you can get some pretty interesting parallels in there.
Yep.
It is a very clean chrome-looking set. I do like XR RPAs. I love the way they look. I do think, they do like the triple patches and things like that.
Definitely.
Similar to like gold standard and some stuff like that. But I do also like, I think they did the new case hit this year. It's like called Rated XR. And then for the rookies, it's like Rated R. They're like the clear acetate cards.
Very cool.
Their case hits. They're like got this like lava lamp sort of look to them. I actually really like them.
Yeah.
Which is something that all four of these sets sort of have in common, is that they all have case hits that don't go for quite as much as, your color blasts and your downtowns and things like that. But that is one of them that was kind of new this year that I did really like about XR. So I definitely agree with you on that front for sure. Now, the other two, Illusions and Zenith.
The other two, so Zenith, in my experience, and I think it changed this year. I think it's actually just available in retail format this year and hobby box format. In years prior, it was an online exclusive release, and so I've opened a lot less Zenith compared to everything else. I personally am not a fan of the material. It's like a glossy material over like a paper stock card. It's not my favorite. I don't love the look of the set. So Zenith is actually one that I ignore. I am passing on that just as a personal preference. A lot of the parallels are, in my opinion, just hard to distinguish from the base as well. And so I try not to gravitate towards Zenith.
No, that's a fair point.
Illusions, I actually like the look of a lot. And even though it's a lower quality product, just the standard paper card stock, some foils, I guess they do have very cool looking foils, and the parallels you can tell get the different colors.
Yeah, their inserts are really, really cool looking.
Very cool inserts. For the price point, I think it's great. You can still get RPAs, stuff like that. Again, it's never going to be Prizm. It's never going to be National Treasures, but for the price point, it's a fun product, fun rip. And I don't see anything wrong with it.
Yeah. I think it's like 3 autos, 2 patch cards. And
Yeah,
I think I can agree with you on that front too. I will admit that like Illusions is kind of like one of my guilty pleasure sort of like
exactly. It's
because
a fun set.
It's fun. That's what it is. It's a fun rip. I just love the way it looks. I love to see what the inserts look like every year. Yep. So like I say guilty pleasure because my profit brain as like a collector is like, that this isn't worth as much as Prizm or Optic or whatever. But my hot side of the brain that is just like, I just like cool looking cards. That's Illusions for me. I think I think the inserts are super cool. They also have, and I wanted to give a shout out to Illusions on this year. Their case hit is the Hollow Heroes.
Yeah, those do sell okay.
In years past, those have it's just been a base, like it's just Hollow Heroes. There's no sort of, it's not like the downtowns, how they have like the Black Pandora and the gold downtowns that are numbered. This year, they introduced gold Hollow Heroes, which are numbered to 10 now.
Yep.
That is really cool. I love that aspect.
Yep.
So that is something I definitely have to give a thumbs up to on Illusions this year, introducing the gold numbered Hollow Heroes, which goes for significantly more than the base one. That brings a little bit more value to the table for the hobby and stuff, the hobby boxes and things like that. So I definitely like that about
just an additional chase.
Yeah, just an additional chase, just a little like extra value for, again, a lower end set compared to like some of the flagship sets. Zenith, especially for like a 1-pack set, like it's just tough. 1 pack, 6 cards. I don't know. Like you would have to guarantee me. I know that's like some of the vet autos were on card this year and some things like that, but I know that their case hit, I think it's called Aloha. It's again like an acetate card, and it's, Pro Bowl, or it's like the players wearing their Hawaii Pro Bowl jerseys and stuff like that. But I just don't think it's that cool. I don't think it's as cool as the Holo Heroes or the Rated XR one, or just the other case hits and like the other big chases that you're kind of going for in those other couple of sets. I just like what you get out of, XR and Illusions and things like that a little bit more. Maybe it's got potential for growth. I know that they've tried to continue to like change things with it. Maybe if they make it chrome or something like that to try and Right. But yeah, I agree. Just the way that they do the gloss on it and stuff, I just don't prefer it.
And again, like that doesn't mean there aren't people who it's their favorite product, right? So if it's your favorite product,
love
great.
it. Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why it exists right now. People do buy it. People do like it, and I'm not trying to hate on it. I think just with like the flagship sets coming out right now, I wanted to talk about that because I feel like those other sets don't get talked about very much once Prizm does hit. But just want to give them their shout out because I feel like some new hobbyists or some guys who are first getting into the hobby, they like to go after those sets first because they see a box of Prizm for like whatever, $1,000, $1,500, whatever the heck the price is going to be this year.
Right.
And then they see Illusions right next to it for $300 to $400 a box. And they're like, you know what? That
players.
Looks really cool.
Yep.
Same players, still get the RPAs and all that stuff. So if you had to rank them 1 to 4, how are you gonna go about those couple of sets there? I think I gotta
personally, I go XR, Phoenix, Illusions, and Zenith.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you. Yeah. Would you put, I was thinking Spectra as well was another one of those sets, but I feel like it's a little bit nicer.
Yeah, Spectra's much nicer.
It's a much nicer. It's been a little bit more established, but again, kind of one of those fill-ins throughout that time. But man, exciting that Prizm's about to come.
Yeah, very exciting. Some awesome high-end wax about to hit the shelves. So.
All right, guys, that is going to wrap us up here for DCI Podcast, episode number 40. Again, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe on this video if you're watching on YouTube. Come check out DCI Grading at the Dallas Card Show this weekend for on-site slabbing, $30 a card. There's other options as well if you're looking to just get that normal 10-day turnaround, and RCRs will still be available for $8 per card. Tons of value for DCI this weekend at the Dallas Card Show.
Going to be a blast. Always a great episode, and we will see you guys next week on episode number 41, our Dirk Nowitzki episode.
That's going to be awesome. I think we're definitely going to have to rock some maps
something
gear.
For sure.
Yeah. All right, guys. I am your host, Grayson Ouellette. He's Jason Dardick. We'll see you next time here on the DCI Podcast.